Loretta, look!
Guess where I've been?
I should ask. I suspect it's in Africa or something like that.
I have been, yes.
My gosh, we'll talk about that. But the other thing we want to get to is the little rumors that we're starting to see and hear about your character returning to Dynasty.
Well, like any cliffhanger, you're going to have to tune in to find out.
Tune in?
Yes.
Come on, we got to do better than that, and we will. Claudia on Dynasty. Now, is that correct?
Yes.
Played?
Well, yes.
Claudia?
Yes, it's correct. It is correct.
Still playing Claudia?
Well, Claudia's on a bit of a hiatus. She's had her annual nervous breakdown again.
Yeah.
And she's off recuperating.
Why do they do that? I mean, do they get cross with you or something? I mean, what's the reason for this disappearance?
I think in the nature of soap operas, they have to string out the plot and keep people very titillated and coming back all the time. And with Claudia's character, she goes very high and very low. So at this point, she absolutely, literally went over the edge of a roof with a child. And so, they can't really, in terms of continuity, just watch her break down again. So they have her off and have to give the audience time to let her recuperate.
I see. So we don't have any update today, huh?
Not at the moment.
Would you like it to be updated in that way?
Well, I love the show. I love the character. I found it very exciting, and I think also that people, when they watch a character and get involved with it, want to see a positive resolution for her. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of letters, saying, oh, please let Claudia get better. Please, let her get healthy. And people that have even had mental problems, like my character, have said, I've been involved with mental illness and have been sick, but I've now recovered and I've gone on to lead a successful life. So I think in terms of, satisfying people that can associate with my character, I think it's important to show that you can get better and recuperate from mental illness.
But it must be terrific to get that enormous exposure. And I think the show, in your terms, I think you once described it as erotica, but also a show about foreplay.
Yes.
I mean, you're always teasing the audience. That must be fun to do.
Well, I think that's the nature of soap operas, that you have to leave, that kind of cliffhanger so that they keep coming back. And the only way to apply that theory is to just make it more and more exciting. So it is exciting.
All right, let's get to the hair, which is, it's just staggering. It must take hours to do.
It took...
Or days.
It did. It will take days to take it out.
Is there a story behind that? Are you doing a picture or what?
I was doing a magazine layout in Africa, and I was in Nairobi, and I was with the Maasai tribes, and the Maasai women actually shave their heads, and short of shaving my hair off, I decided to do this cornrowing, which is about a month old now. But it was quite extraordinary because it was in very high rows and separated very distinctly. And we did some shots with the Maasai women in a circle with my head in the middle of it, and you can't really tell at all. So what they did in this magazine piece was to make me up like a native and go through native initiation rites and live in the village with the Maasai.
You team up with, it's Nick Wheeler, isn't it?
Yes.
And he's a former Vietnam War correspondent and a freelance photographer.
Yeah.
And I've met Nick.
Yeah.
You two were in Africa for this particular piece?
Yes, we've been to Africa before. We were there a couple of years ago and covered the mass animal migration, and we did a piece on rhinoceros poaching. They were doing a translocation of rhinoceros in Africa, and we covered that together. But this piece, actually, Nick did not do the photographs. There was another photographer that was photographing me, and then we did our own photographs. Safety
is a big concern of yours, and I remember an interview you gave once. You said the more recognizable I am, the more I can speak on things that concern me. And that has been a point of discussion and will continue to be a point of discussion as far as actors speaking out. But you're speaking out personally about safety because an incident that happened to Nick's son, you call him your stepson, although you're not married. What was the incident? It had to do with
It was, he was at school, and he was standing there with a few children, and some other kids came up. One of them had a gun, actually, and stole his backpack. And because of that incident, it concerned me enormously. It concerned him as well. He said to me, most parents are worried about drugs in school. We're also worried about safety. And don't you want to know if somebody shoots me or a friend of mine, who that person is? And he said, I can't understand why politicians are so against gun control when they're really larger targets than all of us. And I realized that children really can lead the way and depoliticize an issue, that people are, so poised on either side of that issue. And so I thought there was a way for children and mothers, the way the Mad Mothers for drunk drivers, against drunk drivers, really got some legislation across. And I thought kids could really show the way for people. And so I started with a group that I wanted to form, which was Mothers and Children for Something. Everybody's against things, and I thought there could be for street safety. I believe people have the right to own guns if they want to, and that's a self-determined decision. But we as potential victims also have the right to have some form of protection as well. And I think also, you're in such a conspicuous position when you're on television, and a lot of times you're asked to do things that personally you may not believe in. My character...
Parts and programs,
yes. Claudia on Dynasty had a gun, and she used the gun in an emotional state, and I'm not an advocate of violence at all. I really believe in nonviolence, and yet a lot of people don't make the distinction between the person that you are and the character that you play.
But knowing that, how do you rationalize it? How do you justify it?
Well, I think you seize the opportunity when it's presented to you to present your own point of view and make that distinction. So since I don't believe in violence, and I don't particularly believe in the use of handguns, I think they're dangerous, that I felt that if I had the opportunity to speak out and give my point of view, that I could make that distinction between what my character did and what I believe.
Finally, your Nick's son's name is what?
Adam.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Has he recovered from this incident? Because that, it just points up a tremendous vulnerability.
Well, children
age.
are amazing. They're amazing. I told him to do a drawing when this happened, which was a while ago, when he was younger, and he made, I thought, a very particularly emotional and evocative drawing. He did a drawing of a mother and a child, and sunshine and blue skies, and a big hand with a gun coming into the picture at the mother and child. And he wrote underneath it, "May there always be sunshine, may there always be blue skies, may there always be Mommy, may there always be me." And I thought that said it very eloquently.
Thank you, Pamela.
Good luck with Claudia.